What happens when you combine the speed of Rookie Rush, the power of security control, and the overall utility of recovery? That's right, you get DynasBond. Let's talk about that. What's up, Tamers? Welcome back to the other decks. My name is Casual Adobo, and today we're talking about DynasBond. So for some context, I was looking through a couple BT6 deck lists, deck profiles, and obviously a lot of it came up Agumon and Bond. And I saw those and was like, yeah, those are cool, but it needs more colors. I'm probably the only one to ever think that about any meta decks. In reality, I wanted to sort of explore this effect activation that both Tai Kamiya and Matt Ishida have for those respective decks. When you warp Digivolve into Agumon with Tai Kamiya's ability, it removes 2 security and then checks your security stack in total, and if there's anything, then at the end of turn, Agumon deleted, right? But if it's at 0, that Agumon stays. Now, what I was sort of looking at was that the Tai Kamiya effect checks the security upon activation, and so once that effect is resolved, it doesn't matter what security you have afterwards. And this is shown by how many people have teched in Magnadramon, the level 6 Mega from way back in the day, that gives on play security or recovery +2. And so people have been teching that in as a way to sort of stay healthy, just in case something disastrous happens with your Agumon. And so I was wondering, can I do this without giving up like 11 memory? Because giving up that much memory is kind of detrimental in this meta. And so I started getting the idea for Dynasmon. So if you have Dynasmon out on the field when you activate that Warp Digivolution, say you go down to 0, you can fully resolve Tai Kamiya's effect and then choose to activate Dynasmon's All Turns ability. Whenever something gets trashed from your security, you get to recovery 1. And so because of that sort of order of operations, Agumon stays because at the time of the activation and resolution of Tai Kamiya's effect, you have 0, but then afterwards you activate Dynasmon and you get that recovery +1, so you have 1 security and still get to keep your Agumon out on the field. At least theoretically, that's how I feel like it should work. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments and we'll have a discussion about it. So without further ado, let's hop into the deck profile. Alright, so starting us off with the Digitama, aka the Digi-Eggs, we do have 1 copy of Koromon, and I chose this particular art because why not? It's adorable. But this is the one that says if this Digimon has Omnimon or Greymon in its name, when attacking we get to trigger draw 1. There are very few scenarios where this actually comes into play, which is why we only have 1 copy of it, but we do have some Greymons in here, so worth the add. Next up, we do have 4 copies of Magnadramon. This is the BT6 one, and this says when attacking, if this Digimon attacks a player, it gets +1000 DP for a turn. And because we're doing sort of a pseudo Rookie Rush style opening, at least, we definitely want to attack the player more often than not, and so that additional +1000 DP is just beautiful. Next up, let's go into our rookies, and admittingly, this is a little bit of an Agumon party, as you can probably imagine from an Agumon deck. But we will start off with the BT1 Agumon. On play, reveal top 5, and then add 1 Tamer card from among them to your hand. Bottom deck. Put the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. As you've probably seen from other Agumon decks, the decks really start to pick up once you've placed your Tai Kamiya or your Matt Ishida. And so this allows us to search for our Tamers. That way we can actually start rolling into our main strategy that we want to do. I do have 3 copies of the BT3 Agumon, and I include this just because it is a 2 cost to play 4000 DP rookie, which is fantastic in a Rookie Rush style deck. Now for a couple more searchers, we do have 4 copies of Flamemon. This is the on play reveal top 3 of the deck. Add 1 Digimon card with hybrid, and or 1 Digimon, 1 red Tamer and add them to your hand. Then once again, you're going to bot deck the remaining cards in any order. Once again, this is very important for finding our Tamers, but also it has a little bit of extra utility of getting us our Agumon essentially. And then finally, we do have 4 copies of the Agumon that we're primarily looking for. And this is the new BT6 Agumon that says on all turns once per turn, if we play a tamer with Tai Kamiya in its name, we gain 1 memory. And then it's inheritable, which is the big one. While this Digimon is Agumon Bond of Bravery, it gains security attack +1. And so the idea really is to have the Agumon out, have Tai Kamiya, warp Digivolve this particular Agumon into Bond of Bravery, and then just swing in for big hits. Moving on to our champions, we do have 3 copies of Agumon, and this is the one that can Digivolve on top of our tamers for 2 costs. And this is just really nice to have in order to get, sometimes that final swing, a surprise hit, just try and generally catch our opponents off guard. And also, if we have multiple tamers, our opponent sweats a little bit. Moving on to our next champion, do have 4 copies of the promo Greymon, and this one says when this Digimon has an Agumon in its Digivolution card source, it gains security attack +1. Now, 5000 DP is obviously a little weak, especially for normally constructed decks, Mega Zoos, 3 Musketeers. But if you're going against another Bond deck like Agumon or Gabubond, generally speaking, especially if they're running the Rookie Rush variant, generally speaking, those security stacks are going to be weaker in terms of their Digimon. So 5000 is a pretty okay swing, and if you have the Demi-Mare underneath of it, that does become 6000. And then to round out our champions, we do have 2 copies of the starter deck Cordramon, and we put this in here just because it's a blocker. Now, you can swap this out for the 1 to Digivolve blocker that has 5000 DP, but it seems like 6000 DP seems to be a little bit better in this meta. There's a lot of things that can kill 5000 DP pretty easily. So 6000 DP just gives us a little bit more hardiness, a little bit more resilience. Moving on to our ultimates, we do have 4 copies of Rise Greymon. This is the BT4 one, and this is really our connector for the megas that we're playing in this deck. So on our turn, this Digimon is also treated as yellow. It can Digivolve off of red or yellow, but obviously the yellow does not matter. But the main thing we're looking at here is its Digiburst ability. So Digiburst 2, we can play a red or yellow tamer with a play cost of 4 or less from our hand without paying its memory cost. So that's going to cover our Tai Kamiya as well as the other tamer that we have running in this deck. And then while we're not really looking at the inheritable here, it is pretty nice when attacking. If you have a tamer in play, which you should have, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP for the turn. And then finally, for our ultimates, we do have 2 copies of Magnadramon from BT1. This says on play, trigger recovery +1, and then inheritable, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for every 3 security cards you have. Mainly playing this for the on play ability. And then I also thought about putting Sylphimon in here, which is the other red-yellow Digimon that we have, before BT8. But I like having the on-play ability rather than Digivolving into Sylphimon. And then going into our megas, we have 3 copies of Dynasmon. So this is our sort of alternate strategy that we're playing here. But when Digivolving, we can trash the top card of our security stack to reveal the top 6 cards in our deck, and add up to 2 level 6 or lower Digimon cards from among them into our hand, and then trash the remaining. But the main ability we want here is the Alternates ability. Once per turn, when a card is removed from the security stack, if you have 3 or fewer security cards, trigger recovery +1. And like I said, I think the order of operations in which you activate these effects with the warp Digivolving into Agumon makes a lot of difference. So if you're running this deck, please be mindful of that. And then moving on to our level 7s, technically not a mega, well, I mean, will it just be like a super mega? I don't know. But moving on to our level 7s, we do have 4 copies of Agumon. This is our main boss monster in this deck. When attacking, if we have a tamer in play, delete one of our opponent's Digimon with 13,000 DP or less. And then on our turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, we get to trash the top security card of their security stack. So just very, very aggressive, very unga bunga slam, and really it's just beautiful. Alright, so that's it for our Digimon. Let's get into the options, and we are running 4 copies each of some of the greatest options that we have here, all of our kill spells. So first of all, 4 copies of Gaia Force. This just deletes an opponent's Digimon. And then moving on, we have 4 copies of Wyvern's Breath, where one of our opponent's Digimon gets minus 15,000 DP for a turn, aka it deletes an opponent's Digimon. Both of these are very strong single target removal, sort of difficult to overcome, especially if your opponent has built up a single stack versus a wide board. So it's kind of nuts, to be honest. And then finally, moving into our tamers, we do have 4 copies of Tai Kamiya. So on our turn, when our Digimon with Agumon or Greymon in its name is moved from the breeding area to the battle area, we gain a memory and we trigger draw 1. And then the main ability we're looking at is main. Once per turn, you can digivolve one of your Agumon into an Agumon Bond of Courage in your hand by paying its digivolution cost, ignoring its level digivolution requirements. And if you do, trash the top 2 of your security stack. Then if you have 1 or more security, delete the Digimon at the end of the turn. So this is where I said, it is strictly checking the security at this moment. So if you have 0 at the end of this effect activation, and then activate some of your other abilities, then you should technically be able to have Agumon safely still on the field, as well as having 1 security. And then rounding out the deck profile, we do have 2 copies of our memory tamer TK. So at start of turn, if we have 2 or less memory, we go to 3, and then on play, we look at our security stack, reveal a card in it, and add it to our hand. If that card is yellow, we get to trigger recovery 1. Now, that second part, obviously there aren't a whole lot of things that are yellow that we can grab out of security. So this is mostly searching in our security, using it as sort of a second hand, trying to find a missing piece that we need that maybe we're not seeing yet. So we're not too concerned about the recovery +1. Plus, it kind of gets us to that area where we can start using Tai Kamiya's Warp Digivolution and not worry about having Agumon die to its effect. So yeah, that's the deck profile. It's an interesting deck. I was concerned when I was building it whether or not I'm just, detrimentally slowing down an Agumon deck and not using Dynasmon to its full capability. And as I kept thinking about it, I was like, yeah, probably. But it is an interesting deck profile, and it does cover one of Agumon's sort of biggest weakness. And this is true kind of for all the Bond decks, right? Craniumon, right? Craniumon can't be destroyed by Gaia Force, can't be destroyed by a lot of the hard removal that Red typically has. So you do need to tech in some sort of Wyvern's Breath normally. And I was just like, let's try to do it in a more general way, so that even if we have Wyvern's Breath in hand, it's not a dead card to us. We can still use it. But let me know what you think about the deck profile down below in the comments. Do you think this could work? Do you think this is interesting enough to be a spicy pick at your locals? Let me know what you think. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel. More deck profiles coming out. Hoping to, be more consistent for the month of December, and then moving into 2022 on a strong note. So, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next one.